Oh boy, is anybody waiting for us?
I don't know. I won't see that until we'll we should chat for a little while before we actually get going because of how this works. 0. All right, what's going on? There, looks like, well, hold on one sec. Are we here? I do not have confirmation that we're on yet. See everything going kind of slow. But I see people joining. Oh, and I see us. So hi to the people who are joining.
We're there.
Yeah, we are. And I am going to, while we're waiting for people to come in, actually shut that down so that doesn't slow down my internet so that we are good to go. So welcome to people who are joining. We'll take a couple of minutes here to wait for folks to get here. So in the meantime, you can maybe chat us who you are, or we can see who you are, where you're tuning in from. Just let us know in the comments. And let me see if I've got message. I also want to confirm that Jian is on and ready before we get going so that he can reply to folks. So Jian, if you want to send me a message through chat, that way I'll know you're ready. And hi to everybody who's coming in. We'll get started in just a second here. Happy Wednesday. Hump day, as they call it. Let's see. I'm not getting a message from Jian yet. I just want to make sure that our folks who are ready to answer questions in the chat are here and ready to go before we start. So let me do that. And he also would tell us if there's any technical issues. So I want to make sure we're ready on all those fronts. I'm still not hearing anything. All right. Welcome to the folks who are joining. We'll get started real soon. Laura, you're not frozen. Okay, good. Just want to make sure I didn't lose you. Hi, everybody.
I just have nothing to contribute at the moment as we're bringing things up. So I figure the best thing for me to do is just sit quietly and patiently and wait for Jian to show up.
Okay, sounds like he's here and ready to go. And let me just confirm that the video is working okay so that we don't need to make any adjustments before we jump on. Sounds like the video is lagging. Yeah, my internet seems to be going slow, but I've got everything shut down that I don't need open, and including Facebook. So I just want to make sure we are doing this and people can actually hear us, because I don't want to open up Facebook and then find out that that is causing delays. What were you going to say, Laura?
I was going to say, how are my sound levels?
You sound good.
They're listening now. Okay.
You sound good to me. I think what's happening is the video is kind of lagging, but I'm waiting for him to tell me if it's okay enough to start or if we need to do some troubleshooting. So let's see. He's not answered. I'm going to try looking at this on my phone. Sorry for the delay, people. Just want to make sure that you can actually hear us before we start talking. Thanks for tuning in, and you can chat where you're tuning in from into the comments on this video, and Jian will respond, or Laura and I. Okay, looks like he's in the document for us. So let's see what he has to say. Okay, Laura, I think we should go ahead and get started. Sounds like the audio is fine, but the video is lagging. So, but if folks can hear us, we'll start with that. So, you want to go ahead and get started?
You bet. Just think of everything as if it's a dream sequence, and then we can wake up from the nightmare that we live in and have a democracy.
Joyce, what were you going to say, Laura? You want to go ahead and get started?
Officially beginning now.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to this edition of Facebook Live. I hope you're able to hear me. Last month I was broadcasting from a little dinner club in Fort Collins, Colorado, and it was noisy in there. So I thank you for your patience. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Laura Bonham. I'm a member of the National Leadership Team, and I'm here with our Executive Director, Kaitlin Belknap.
Hi, everybody. Sorry we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll power through. I want to welcome you to our May 2017 Move to Amend Live report, and we're really excited to be doing this format. As those of you who were with us for a while know that we used to do a podcast, but now we talk to folks every month this way. So I hope you're enjoying the new format. We are, and we encourage your participation as we go along. So if you have any questions for the national team, me and Laura, and Jian is on the comments, so he can also answer you. So feel free to post your questions. Feel free to post where you're tuning in from, and anything you want to talk about today, and we'd be happy to take it away. And then we have some highlights as well, but we'll be happy to take your questions if they're on the topic that we're speaking to or anything. So first of all, for this past month, I just want to let everybody know that we're really excited that we've made a new hire, which is a big deal for Move to Amend. We're a small staff, and we have a small team, a small but mighty team, I like to say, and we have volunteers all over the country. But our staff team is also all over the country. We hired Greg Coleridge to join us as Outreach Co-Director, and he lives in Ohio, so he'll be working from Ohio. And Greg has been working on this issue of corporate constitutional rights and pro-democracy for decades. So we're really excited to have Greg. He's been helping to organize in Ohio as a volunteer for Move to Amend for ever since we got started. And so it'll be great to work with him in this new position, and starting early next month.
Well, I want to say welcome aboard to Greg, because we need his point of view, and his credentials are excellent, and he's just a wonderful person and a real hoot. So it'll be great to have him on the team, and it will be great to have him applying his knowledge and skills under the Move to Amend banner at the national level. So welcome aboard, Greg.
Yes, and maybe we'll get him into one of these Facebook Lives at some point, so folks who haven't met him can get a chance to meet him in the near future. And in May, so moving over to update on House Joint Resolution 48, that's the We the People Amendment that is in Congress, in the House of Representatives. It was introduced January 30th. Our goal for 2017 was to get to 35 co-sponsors, but I'm really pleased to say that we actually made a lot of progress in May, and we're actually up to 41. So goal surpassed and continuing. Just yesterday, we had the most recent co-sponsor come on, Marcy Kaptur from Ohio, who was a co-sponsor last congressional term and finally came back. And also some new folks, Jackie Spear from California, Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, and Janice Schakowsky from Illinois. So those are our newest co-sponsors. Want to thank them for becoming We the People Amendment champions, and also thank all of our other co-sponsors. And we also had a great webinar training where we talked about how to get your representative to come on as a co-sponsor. And we heard from some of our really awesome volunteer leaders from across the country who some of them had to work for a couple of years to educate and bring along their representatives. So they shared their stories of their success. And you can find that webinar recording on our website if you weren't able to tune in live. And it talks about how you could get started to get your representative to come on. And we also will be doing some work on the Senate. We'll talk about that a little bit later because for June, we're going to be working on the Senate. So in the meantime, though, please urge your representative and your senators to sign on by contacting them. And Keon will post a link for where you can find the list of who is already a co-sponsor. And if your representative is, you can thank them. And if they're not, then you can contact them and let them know what they need to do. Should we talk about Article 5 convention now, Laura?
Well, now is as good a time as any to talk about an Article 5 convention, which is something that Move to Amend has actually been talking about in kind of a vague way since we launched, in fact, on the very day that Citizens United passed in 2010. And so our strategy included then, and it still does today, two pathways to pass the We the People Amendment. The first is the tried and true method, which goes through congressional approval. 2/3 of Congress members in both houses approve the amendment, and then 3/4 of the states ratify it. The second way, which has never happened, is to pass the amendment through a constitutional convention of the states. This requires 2/3 of the states to call for the convention. Both strategies require a community and state-based organizing strategy to build broad support for the We the People Amendment, which is where we are now. And our work is focused in the states and local communities while we pass our bill through Congress. Meanwhile, which can only be described as fascist, are being pushed by
Uh-oh, I lost Laura, which probably means everything's messed up. Sorry, folks. Let me figure this out. Okay, Laura, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened, but I lost you, and it sounds like everybody lost us. Okay, are we back? Can you guys thumbs up if you can see us and hear us?
Want me to move so you can tell?
I can see you. It's just that, okay, it looks good. Looks like folks can see us too. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. I think my internet went out and that made me lose the call with Laura. So Laura, go ahead and I'm not actually sure where you were.
Okay, so I'll go back a little bit and say now over the past 8 years, the Democratic Party has failed to retain governorships and state legislatures. So the GOP is very close to having the 2/3 states it needs in order to call a convention, a GOP-led convention. Some on the left are having a conniption fit. The sky is not falling yet. Further, we have an interest in staging a convention of the states ourselves. So as we talk about it, here's some bullet points to ease folks' minds when thinking about passing the We the People Amendment through either of the ways the Constitution allows. So the first, for all of their brilliance, the writers of the current Constitution did not provide a process for the states to follow in calling and staging a convention of the states. So it could take quite some time to write and adopt those rules. Stay aware, but relax. Our opportunity to impact this process hasn't even arrived yet and won't for some time. Stick to building solidarity and raising awareness right now. It will require 34 state legislatures and governors to call a convention of the states and 38 states to pass amendments. The GOP appears close, but looking at the electoral map highlighted in red and blue doesn't show that over the march of time, all states are actually purple. The electoral map shifted dramatically under Obama's terms, and it can shift back just as dramatically under Trump, especially if movement organizers keep building solidarity and raising awareness. So who's behind the effort? The Federalist Society, of course, longtime supporters, and the founders of the Tea Party, the Koch brothers, who also fund the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, our nemesis. Its primary mission is to claw back any human rights provisions in the Constitution while expanding the rights of corporations, and they've been successful in a number of states, but once again, democracy movement organizers can easily exploit this line of attack. Corporate rule just doesn't play well with we the people, and more folks are paying attention than ever before. Now, the proximity of GOP-led states to being able to call a convention of the states is scary, but it's not happening this year, and it won't happen at all if the democracy movement springs to life in communities across the spectrum. 2018 will be a telling year electorally. If last year's red state turns blue, all bets are off on a Republican-led convention of the states. And lastly, our problem isn't the mechanism of convention of the states. Our problem is corporations seizing power in the economy and in the government. The democracy movement could decide to call a convention of the states in the future, so it's in our best interest to keep organizing everywhere, building resistance to GOP-led convention of the states, while building support for the We the People Amendment. We'll consider a possible convention of the states brought about through the democracy movement when we have the majority of Americans on our side and Congress fails to act. You have anything to add to that, Kaitlin?
No, just that I think that we do need to be talking about this. I think that, and that the position of some groups is that, we just shouldn't even go there. We shouldn't even have this conversation. And Move to Amend really thinks that that would be a mistake, that under the Constitution, the most populist and therefore democratic way to amend it would actually be through a convention. And it should be our goal to work to build enough power and capacity, education, to imagine a constitutional convention as a highly effective mechanism for bringing about a social justice agenda. So that should be our goal. And if we are afraid that we're not there, then we should be building the movement that would actually be able to pull off a convention and have that be an amazing leap forward in democracy in this country. So that's, kind of how we see the potential of a convention and why we want to be engaging in the conversation about it. And for anybody who is interested in this conversation, whether you're fearful or excited or somewhere in between, a great place for us to continue it is at the upcoming Democracy Convention that will be held in Minneapolis the beginning of August 2nd through 6th, that Move to Amend is a convener of. And that the conference, it's 8 conferences all under one roof. And all of the conferences, the theme is democracy as it relates to different aspects of our society and our movements. And we are responsible for convening the Democratizing the Constitution conference. And so talking about Article 5 and the different ways to amend the Constitution and what is missing in our Constitution that would make it more democratic, more just, more centralizing human rights over property rights, and also just looking at, how it's no big surprise that a document that was mostly about protecting the property, including human beings owned by the folks who had the most power at the time of the Revolutionary War, brought us to this moment where we have a system of corporate rule. So that's a conversation that we're excited to have with folks. And I see Richard asking if there's any chance that the conference will fill up. There is limited housing. It's at the University of Minnesota, and the most affordable housing is on campus. And so getting your spot early and committing early is a great idea, and also helps us because we actually have to pay costs up front. And so if we know ahead of time how many people to expect, we can make sure that we're booking the right space and that we can afford to do it. It is a grassroots conference, so it's not like we have like major funders to pull it off. So if you're interested in coming, then I encourage you to go sign up today. And it's a very affordable conference as well. The goal is to, nobody's making money off of it. We're just, the expenses pay for the space, and that's it. And we wanted to make it as accessible as possible. So the registration fees are low, the housing is low, and we really want as many people as possible to be able to come. Do you want to add anything about that, Laura? I sort of jumped over to that, but I think that really fits with this conversation about a constitutional convention that is happening a lot right now in different circles, partly because a lot of groups in DC are scared of it, but I think we should, if we're scared of something, we should talk about how we can turn it into an opportunity rather than just put our heads in the sand.
Well, I agree, and the really important thing to note here is there aren't any rules. There's no process established. And if it turns out that we need this mechanism to pass our amendment, I think it's well worth our time to be looking at this and listening and studying so that we're there when rules are being crafted, when ideas about how this process should work are being put out on the table. Our voice needs to be heard, no matter who's leading the effort. We can learn a lot there. And like I said, we need this instrument, so we need this mechanism, so nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, and I saw that Jian linked the our kind of standing position on the convention, which people ask us about a lot. So if folks want to, refer people to that, you can feel free. And if you feel like our position is the wrong one, we've definitely talked about this internally and had some conversations externally about it too. So we feel pretty confident in our position. We feel like it's a very reasonable, middle of the road approach. There's totally the possibility that Congress will not, we're getting some good momentum, but there's a lot of people in Congress and we have a long way to go. And Congress is bought and owned by large corporations, right? So at a minimum, the threat of a convention seems like it may need to be a component of our strategy that we, very seriously understand to be necessary. And then if, we're just threatening, maybe that would be enough. In the past, that's kind of what has happened. But I think we need to be able to be prepared to carry through on the threat if we're making it and if Congress is dragging their feet. So, as you can tell, I feel good about our position, but if you think that it's the wrong one, we would be happy to hear from you about why. And, there are some people who think Congress is just, we shouldn't even bother with them. And I can understand that cynicism and frustration. And then there are other folks who think that it could be a disaster and women would lose rights, people of color would lose rights, immigrants would certainly potentially be in a lot tougher position. LGBTQ folks could end up even worse off. And there are people in this country, and a lot of them are increasingly in power, who would love to roll back on the human rights protections that all of our foremothers and fathers fought for and made part of our government and laws. And so that's real too. So I get it. So let us know what you think. And go ahead.
So what happened with this month? We had the hashtag I Move to Amend campaign. We're trying to reach another one of our strategic goals, which is, I don't know what the exact dollar amount is, but I do know that it involves increasing our fundraising goals so that we can be more effective. now that, and we have one new hire, but we need to hire more people.
We do need more folks. Yeah, we need more folks. And the reason why is because we need to be able to meet the demand of people who are asking for help to get started, people who, so we can be in multiple places at once. I mean, this summer there's a bunch of conferences that we'd like to speak at. That's part of how we, educate other groups and recruit folks in. And we can't be all over the place if we don't have people to cover that. So there are just so many reasons why when Move to Amend, your dollar gets stretched more than almost any other organization that I can think of. I certainly don't want to say any other one. There's especially some real grassroots groups who maybe can eke out a couple more cents. But that's our roots, and so we're used to operating that way. So the I Move to Amend campaign is a campaign this month to bring on 50 new monthly donors, and we're more than halfway there. We're at 27, and we still need 23 new folks before the end of the month. And the reason why we're focusing on monthly donors is because that is one of the best ways for all of us who don't make a lot of money to contribute a little bit every month. And that helps make it possible to give a little bit more, and also for there to be funds that we can kind of count on every month. And so I give monthly, and Laura gives monthly, and we would invite you to join us in giving monthly. And we really want to thank everyone who's participated so far. I should have grabbed my sign. We have we've been asking folks to also post a sign to social media. I totally should have grabbed mine. It's at the office, which is next door. I said, that I moved to Amend because we need universal health care, and we will not get a single payer universal health care system until we get corporations out of the process of helping to decide what healthcare policy will be. Insurance corporations that are there to maximize their profit. And I don't think that's really going to be possible, at least not on the national level, until we pass this amendment. So that's why I Move to Amend. But we're inviting folks to put up a sign with the hashtag I Move to Amend at the top, and then tell us why you think that we need this movement. And if you want to just say it in the comments right now, we'd love to see why you think we need Move to Amend. Why are you here? Why are you engaged? And while you're at it, sign up to be a monthly donor. And if you already are a monthly donor, thank you. And please invite your friends. Bring on one friend, and that'll help us meet our goal.
I moved to Amend because the military-industrial complex exists. That's what my picture says.
Word. Seriously. How can we even have a democracy and a military-industrial complex? It doesn't work.
But it's been fun looking at all the pictures and reading all the different reasons that people come up with. So so join in the fun.
Absolutely.
Help spread the message.
So yeah, you go ahead. Tell them what We the People Listen.
I was going to say the We the People Listen campaign launched in May, but there's still plenty of time to get involved, and this is a fun way to meet your neighbors and learn where they stand, what the issues in the community are that bother them, learn where they are on corporate rule. So it's just kind of like a coffee klatch. You're not asking them for anything, you're listening. And you can get all the details about the We the People Listen here at movetoamend.org/listen. And I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to repeat that. Get the details about the We the People Listen at movetoamend.org/listen.
Yep, I can hear you fine. I think it's working all right. And so let's see what else. We wanted to give some affiliate shout-outs. And specifically Winona, Minnesota area, Move to Amend is our newest affiliate to come on board, and you can find the latest news from them on their Facebook page, which Keon will post, so that you can find them if you're anywhere near Winona, Minnesota. Also want to welcome Cincinnati, Ohio, who's rejoining Move to Amend as a We the People Amendment working group. There's definitely an ebb and flow with volunteer organizations, and so Cincinnati kind of was on hiatus for a little bit, coming back as We the People Amendment working group, which is kind of for our more informal groups. So welcome back, Cincinnati. And big news, I want to give a giant shout out to my neighbors in the Sacramento, California, and other California volunteers too, affiliate. Last weekend, we had the State Democratic Party convention here in Sacramento, and our goal was to get a resolution passed. We've actually already passed a resolution and gotten language into the platform of the California Democratic Party. And I should make clear that we work with any party that is interested. So the only reason we were focusing on the Democrats is because they had a convention in town, and we were just trying to get support from everybody who is a Democrat. But we reach out to Republicans and Greens as well. And so, anyway, our goal was to pass a resolution, and we ended up getting it before the resolutions committee, going through the process to do that, and collecting the signatures in advance to do that, and got about 3 times more than needed. And then they wanted to defer it, and we didn't want that to happen. So our volunteers had 24 hours to collect 300 signatures. They collected 450 some, and in less than 24 hours, and were able to get the resolution onto the floor for all the delegates to vote on, and it passed with no dissension. And so the reason why we're doing that is because last year in California, we passed Prop 59, a state ballot initiative, and we wanted the California Democratic Party to have a mandate to all of their candidates running that if they wanted support, they needed to follow Prop 59 and support the We the People Amendment, and also to just, kind of really reiterate that the amendment that the California Democratic Party supports is one that has both corporations do not have constitutional rights and money is not speech. So we got that passed, and it explicitly supports Move to Amend, and it was all through volunteer grassroots effort. So great job to the folks who stayed up until like 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday to make all of that happen. And then also our Minnesota affiliates have been doing really good work earning endorsements from other organizations, and they just got an SEIU local, 8 different peace organizations, 5 environmental groups, organization of lawyers, and a progressive independence group. So if you're part of an organization that could endorse Move to Amend, that's one of the ways that you can join this effort. And you can get the details about that in the link that Jian will send of kind of who's already an endorser. And if your group is missing, we have either resolutions you can pass or just an endorsement saying that you sign on. So I invite you to do that. And if you want to get a group started in your area to replicate or do similar work to all of this awesome grassroots organizing that we're naming, you can go to our website. Jian will post the direct links to find the details about how to get involved as an affiliate. And I think that's kind of the highlights for May. The big, I love that we're going out with that endorsement from the California Democratic Party, because they actually, some of the folks in the leadership did not really want us to get that done, but we did. So that was really a good win. But let's talk about June.
Well, before we move on, though, I want, a lot of people think of California as a very liberal state, and that, that there's this hugely liberal Democratic Party that exists there. But the fact is, it is a huge Democratic Party, but it still has some of the same characteristics that other Democratic parties and all political parties, all major political parties have. And so getting these types of resolutions that are very populist in nature and really human rights centered over corporate rights is not as easy a thing as people may think. So I want to throw my hat in the tip of the hat into all those delegates and folks who work so hard to get that passed, because it's just not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. And I got to say, I was not one of them because I was out of town at a speaking event in another community in California. So they did that all on their own, and it was great work.
And you're off to Washington, D.C. soon, are you not?
Yes. Yeah. The beginning of the month, I will be in Washington, D.C. to visit House and Senate members. Let's see. Is my thing working right here? Okay. And I am excited about that. We need to get our amendment introduced in the Senate. That's one of our goals for this year, and we're doing great on growing the House co-sponsorship, but we still need some Senate champions. So I'm going to try and shore that up, and the senators will be focusing on, are mostly folks from the states where we've passed ballot initiatives and where we also have passed a lot of resolutions at the local level, because their constituents have basically told them what they should do. So we need to make that happen. So, Washington, D.C., it's always a funny thing to go visit Congress. But I would not say it's like my favorite part of the job. But I'll have some awesome folks with me, and some local folks in the area who will be helping out. And it is empowering and exciting to, hand them the pages of, here, let me shut this window. There's a loud airplane going by. The pages and pages and pages of people who have signed our resolution, our motion to amend in their districts. And so that would be a moment to say, if you have not signed the motion to amend, you should, so that I can include you in those pages, and tell all your friends too to sign the motion to amend. That's the easiest and simplest and first thing that everybody should really do is to join us by signing the motion to amend, so we can show our strength in numbers. And I'll also be doing a speaking event at a community college conference in Baltimore as part of this trip too. So, and that I do always like to do. So it'll be good. And hopefully stopping off at the People's Summit on the way back in Chicago is also the plan. So some travel coming up. And we already talked about the Democracy Convention. I don't think we need to say anything else about that, but I saw that you wanted to mention that it's Flag Day on June 14th.
Yeah, it is Flag Day on June 14th. And you can get your own version of this corporate logo, Stars and Stripes, from the Move to Amend store. So Jian will post the link below because it's just too long to say out loud. But go ahead, wave the corporate flag on Flag Day. You'll fit right in. Yeah. Folks always get a kick out of that. When we always use it when we're tabling, and people just run to the table. What is that? Oh my goodness. Whatever has that, I agree. So you will be popular if you fly the corporate flag in an ironic, sort of bummed out way, but also in let's say what's really going on here. Also, the Emancipation Proclamation is sort of what we think of when we think of ending slavery in the United States in 1863, but it actually wasn't until the end of the Civil War in 1865 that slavery was officially abolished. And that's something to celebrate. I think it's hard I know it is for me to even fathom, but the reality is that's our legacy in this country, among other things, and we should remember that we should not sort of gloss over that real history that has tons of implications that are still going on today all over the place for Black folks, and actually really for all of us in terms of the way that race and racism operates. So June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, is the celebration in mostly Black communities, but really we should all be celebrating, commemorating the days that slaves actually became independent and free under law. And so I hope that everybody will think about that history on Juneteenth at a minimum, but also look for a Juneteenth event in your community. That's a great way to make connections with folks that you might not otherwise know. Now, with Memorial Day just around the corner, it won't be long before summer activities are full pitch. Parades, fairs, festivals, farmers markets, concerts, all that stuff. They're all great places to meet folks in your neighborhood and community. So contact affiliate support for ideas or cook up some of your own. Just remember, the summer months are ripe with opportunity for gathering petition signatures. And as Kaitlin said a minute ago, this is where it all begins, is building strength by signing our motion to amend petition.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's what we've got going on, and if folks are not connected with an affiliate group yet, you don't need to be to go out and table and collect petitions. So if you're looking for an easy kind of low-level way to get started, that's a great way. And we're coming into summer, so that's a good time. And we're also available for any questions that folks might have. So I didn't see any that Jian let us know, and I'm actually kind of watching the feed on my phone here, so I could make sure we weren't offline. Go ahead, Laura.
August is going to be, well, summer's always busy. August is really going to be busy with us with the Democracy Convention, but it's also our We the People Lobby month. That's when all the Congress members are home for the summer during the August recess. They're spending their time in district, and so we'll be setting up visits to lobby them in district, and you can help do that by getting involved with the Pledge to Amend campaign. And our hope is to get those visits logged and scheduled so that we can get them to join the movement to amend by co-sponsoring the We the People Amendment. That's August this year.
And I also heard that I think a lot of, especially House members, are planning to do town halls for their little shorter recess they're doing around Memorial Day that's coming right up, and then the following week. So finding out if there is a town hall near you and going to your representative's town hall, no matter who they are, and putting them in the hot seat and asking them why they don't support the We the People Amendment yet, and inviting them to do so. That's actually how we've got some of our recent co-sponsors. So it would be great if folks could look at, I think it's townhallproject.org, where you can find out if there's a town meeting near you, or you can go to your representative's page and they should say too. I think I saw a question from Ken asking about the Democracy Convention and when so we do have a process for folks to submit proposals for workshops, and the deadline was Monday, but we actually are going to extend it another week. So we haven't even got all the submissions yet. So I expect that it'll be early in June when we'll be able to let folks know if the submissions that you made are going to work out, and if you're invited to join us as a presenter. And so if you haven't got your proposals in, we also have another page where we ask if you would like to see a particular session. So we're still taking submissions for that too. So if you're not in a position to lead one, because that doesn't feel like what you would want to do, but you want to help determine what content is there, if you go to our website and then click on the banner that is going across about the Democracy Convention, that'll take you to our page on the Democracy Convention site where you can submit a request or a proposal. Jian, do we have any questions? Can you let us know? It also might be that my internet is going really slow, so I'm not seeing anything. But I also, let me see if I can just real quick, Laura, scroll through these questions because I don't want to miss any. I see Jill, shout out for being a volunteer with the Brainerd, Minnesota group that's getting off the ground. And it looks like Jian's saying there aren't any questions yet. So if you have any, this would be the moment to ask. I see some comments about the convention that happened earlier, the conversation about a constitutional convention, which is great. Thanks for getting in that conversation. Nobody has any questions? Nobody needs to know anything? Nobody about move to amend of any sort, of anything we asked or talked about earlier? It's looking like folks feel like it's covered. All right. Well, I think then we can sign off. Do you have a calendar in front of you, Laura? Should I pull mine up so that we can say what day?
I do.
Okay, what day will we be back?
Our next Facebook Live is on June 28th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8
No,
Eastern.
5
Pacific.
You always do that. Laura's on Mountain, and she thinks that we are too, but we're not.
It's just too much keeping up with all these time zones and Donald Trump.
Well, it's fair. We are trying to organize a continent. It'd be like if we were trying to organize all of Europe, and with a lot more space than that. So, it's fair. But anyway, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. I see your comment, Joseph. Thanks for being here. Ken, thanks for being here. Jill, thanks for being here. I think I saw Darla earlier. Thanks for joining us. So I hope you'll tune in next month. If there's anything in particular you'd like us to talk about, you can always post a comment to Move to Amends page, even when we're not having the live feed, or when you see the live feed post that we put up a week in advance, feel free to comment there on what you'd like us to address. And it's always great to engage with you. So please do be in touch with us. If Facebook isn't the best way, you can always call us at 916-318-8040 or go to movetoamend.org and find tons of information. And also there's a contact us page there, so you can be in touch that way. And if there's a local honorary visit from, who's that? What's his name?
This is Dottie.
Dottie, okay.
She's my little D Democrat dog.
Well, I know that, dogs probably don't think that corporations should have more rights than them, and they do. So that's only fair that we'd have the dogs on our team. So good night, everyone. Good night, Laura. Thanks for being here. And
Good night, Kaitlin.
Be in touch.
Good night, everybody else. And I look forward to seeing you in a month and to hear all the exciting things that have happened in between.
All
Have a
right.
great month.
Good night, everybody.